The number 11 most intriguing Seahawk isn't technically a Seahawks player, but he is a Seahawks coordinator, and it's Ryan Grubb, their offensive coordinator. This is a huge, huge change. It was the biggest hire that Mike McDonald was going to make, right? Because he handles the defense. Mm-hmm. The defensive coordinator was going to kind of do what it is that Mike wants to do. But the offensive coordinator, he has to be able to almost be independent, right? To be able to go out there and do this entirely on his own. Not entirely, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. While McDonald's focus really needs to be elsewhere, as he is also really the coordinator of that defense. So it was a little surprising, at least to me, that he went with somebody with no NFL experience. But in what he got, Ryan Grubb sure sounds like someone who should make this transition very well.
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think number one, this was probably the most consternation and debate in our polling, behind the scenes, as we were all trying to put this top 25 list together. I think do we add a coach to it? Where does he stand? I think that you could probably put him even higher, frankly, than number 11 of the most intriguing, because he's, of all of the hires, the most outside the box. A lot of young. Durday's young. Harbaugh's young. A lot of young on the staff. And Grubb isn't necessarily all that young. He's not a 20-something or a 30-something. But as you just mentioned, Salk, he's got no NFL experience. So who comes to mind? Right? We talk all the time about player comps. So this guy can do this. And even within Grubb's system, we have mentioned multiple times of, oh, look at this. What a facsimile of different players, of Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk and these tackles. And there's so many components just down the road on 405 to what Grubb had over there at the University of Washington. But who would be his comp? Is it Cliff Kingsbury? Is it not really? Cliff had NFL experience. He was up there in New England with Belichick as a player. He kind of kicked around the league just a little bit. Is it Chip Kelly?
That was the first name that came to my mind. It's different, obviously, because those guys went to be head coaches rather than offensive coordinators.
Yep.
And, when I think of Chip, did his offense not work in the NFL, or did Chip's personality as a head coach not work in the NFL? I got the sense it was more the latter than the former, but I honestly don't know. I mean, Chip was certainly the first name that came to mind. I'm not going to go back to Steve Spurrier because I don't think it was Spurrier's offense. It was the personality and the laziness and all that seemed to take him out at the NFL level. But, yeah, Chip Kelly's probably the name that I would come to.
Yeah, and I think with Chip, there was a deep background at the line of scrimmage, the run game. I don't know if there was a tremendous amount of depth. I know that you and I spent plenty of time talking to Coach Carroll on and off the air about defending Chip and may have had some troubles there at USC at times with the tempo and the speed and all the personnel at Oregon, but not as much of a challenge at the NFL level against Philadelphia. And I think that there was a sense and a feeling in the league that, yeah, we adjusted, and it was pretty simple.
Yeah.
And it was such a speed and tempo thing. And, with 53 guys and 48 active, you just can't do tempo-wise what you want to do. And that, to me, is where this is also very intriguing, Saul, because Grubb likes to play fast. You already hear Mike McDonald talking about their tempo. They do want to play faster than, I think, a normal NFL team, but not at the hyper speed that Chip tried to bring in and ultimately realized, don't have the bodies, don't have the volume, don't have the ability to do what we did collegiately and wear people out and wear people down. So this will be, this is going to be a fascinating, I think the most outside the box hire an individual in the building. Said it before and I'll say it again. I love, love, love the fact that he's got a line of scrimmage background. This is still a line of scrimmage league, and the fact that you almost get two O-line coaches in one with Huff and Grubb coming together from Alabama, I just think that is an enormous, enormous advantage.
Well, I'm glad you say that, because to me, that's the one thing that could undo all of the positives about Ryan, because unfortunately, Brock, that's the position that is the weakest right now in this team. Yep. And especially if this Abe Lucas thing stretches out over time, you've got one legitimate, guaranteed, you can count on him starter on that O-line. One. Right now. Today. Right? You got one. I think you feel pretty good about your left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
My left guard? We'll see. Center, we already talked to him earlier today. Love Olu. I'm excited about him. But, again, hasn't done it at this level. Right guard is up in the air, and right tackle is, okay, maybe it's going to be Fant, but he's supposed to be a backup. Mm-hmm. As we know, you can have the most ingenious offensive system in the world, but if the offensive line doesn't give you enough time to everyone else to get open, it doesn't matter. It all goes up in smoke because some defensive lineman comes into your backfield and destroys your quarterback.
You trying to get me to talk like Tom Moore? Is that what you're trying to do?
I don't want that.
Did you just kind of set the whole table there for me to talk about Tom Moore?
No, really not.
Okay, I won't use his voice, but yes, in a very nice way, he did talk about drawing plays up in toilet paper, and flushing them down the toilet if you cannot protect. Protection is the most important component to that. If you were also say then, okay, of all of those dudes at the UW, of all of that talent that they had at Washington, of all these guys that are now making paychecks at the NFL level, where was the most vulnerable or the least amount of certainly NFL talent and that you had to kind of mask and disguise and make sure you accounted for? It'd have been the middle of the Husky offensive line, the two guards that were good players. They were not great players. A center that was 270 pounds. It's now at Bama and a good player, but a very, very undersized player. So, again, not that it's a perfect facsimile and not that everything translates, but he kind of had the same.
Brock, but the other problem, the defensive lines in the NFL are not the Pac-12. And that is a big difference, right?
Did they have a problem with Texas?
They didn't. That's a good point.
I mean,
they absolutely
Murphy,
handled,
there's a 16th pick in the draft.
That's a good
point.
Yep.
Yep. Did they have a tremendous challenge with Oregon beating them 3 times? And Oregon had
yes,
NFL
they did have some
line.
challenges with Oregon. Yes, they did. I mean, yes, they beat Oregon 3 times, but it's not like they blew their doors off like they did with Texas, when they were, really moving.
No, but the ball went up and down the field. Michigan was the only one, and, Michigan is, funny that Mike McDonald's system is the one that, right? I mean, some great storylines. It is intriguing. I'm glad he made this list. He is going to be a fascinating character. We will feel his intensity at practice, man. Too.
If he can get the ball to these guys in space, DK's a weapon. Jackson is a weapon. Tyler Lockett, maybe he's not a weapon like he was when he was younger, but he's certainly a solid receiver who knows what to do and where to be. And he's got a couple of tight ends that know how to catch the ball in space as well, plus the running backs. I mean, the offensive line may be a challenge, and I am worried about it. But, man, if his thing is finding ways to get guys in space, open the ball, well, they've got the right guys for that. There is no doubt. And that's why he's number 11 on our most intriguing Seahawks list. We will continue to count this down. The top 10 starts on Monday.